Hey guys, it's Derek and Lindsay. Do you need to start investing? Yes, the answer is yes, you must. And you must do it sooner rather than later because time is gonna be your friend when it comes to investing. Not more money, time. So whether you're young and just trying to get started and trying to understand the whole investing world, this video is for you. If you're 50 and you're not sure that your investments are where they're supposed to be, this video is for you. Now, we're gonna get started by talking a little bit about how to start at the very, very beginning. We're gonna assume that you know nothing and go through a pipeline of investing.
As the video title suggests, we're going to give you advice from a stockbroker. I had the opportunity to work as a stockbroker for the Vanguard group. If you're not familiar with them, they are an asset under management corporation, currently the second largest in the world with about $6 trillion in management. While there, I had a great opportunity where I was able to look at tens of thousands of accounts. I was able to buy and sell over $1 billion in investments.
Before we get started, we want you to go ahead and smash that like button down below, comment below where you're currently at in your investment journey, and also subscribe to our channel.
Before we get started, there's 3 disclaimers. Number 1, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. Second one, throughout this video you hear us say index fund, mutual fund, fund. They all mean the same thing in this context. Last disclaimer, we're not endorsed by anybody. These are our opinions. We have no sponsorship on this video, so it's solely our personal beliefs and how we view it.
We're gonna walk you through the pipeline of investing to make it super clear for anyone who is just starting out. And the very first step that you actually need to do is open a bank account.
One of the key points that you hear us talk about a lot are cost to investing. So because this is step 1 in our pipeline, you need to look at the cost of having that bank account. We're assuming that a lot of you, if not all of you, have a bank account, so this is a good time to look back at your bank account. Are you being charged for a checking account, for other fees, for maintenance fees? What are the fees to maintain this account? The reason that this is critical is with investing, if you want that 8% return and you're being charged 2% in your pipeline to get that 8%, your return is actually going to be 6%.
Just think of it this way, the less fees that are going into your bank are more money that you get to put in your pocket and more money you get to invest and grow.
Don't pay money for checks. Who uses checks now? Seriously.
Before we move on to our second part of the pipeline, we really want to stress that when you do open this bank account, do not open investment accounts with your bank. It is very hard to transfer those to other financial institutions. They generally charge higher fees, and it's just all around gonna save you a big headache if you never do it. The second step on our pipeline is to choose a broker.
Now, guys, before we get into this, let me demystify this for you. When you hear brokerage, you might be thinking, oh no, I have to do something serious here. Look, guys, I've literally set up thousands of these accounts. You set up a bank account, right? Checking, savings. It is almost the exact same process. 1, you'll do it online. 2, you really don't need to talk to any human to get this done. And 3, you could get it done in 5 minutes. So just to demystify that, you will need a brokerage account. Now, listening to Dave Ramsey, he says, no, don't get a brokerage account. There's a misunderstanding there. This brokerage account is not, we're not specifically saying, hey, you're doing this to set up to purchase individual stocks or get into any risky investments. The brokerage account is just going to allow you to be able to create your investments, which we mentioned. We're going to be focusing on mutual funds, which Dave Ramsey agrees with.
Don't let the term brokerage scare you. It's just an account that helps you hold your mutual funds or any other investments you would like to do. To give you some examples of brokers, there's Vanguard, there's Fidelity, Robinhood, there's all types of different ones that you can choose. We like Vanguard because they have lower fees, and Derek talked about the cost earlier. Now, when you're looking for a broker, you're gonna look for it the same way that you looked for your first bank when you open your checking account. You want the bank that's gonna give you the lowest fees. You want the broker that's gonna charge you the lowest fees.
Guys, this all goes back to that 8% we talked about, and this is all within that same pipeline. If you're being charged fees at this step, it's going to eat away at your 8% returns.
To be extremely simple about this, let's pretend I'm going to a grocery store and there is a gallon of milk at one grocery store A, for $2.50, and there's the same gallon of milk at grocery store B for $3.50. If they're right next door to each other, I'm gonna go with grocery store A because it's cheaper. The same principle applies. You want to just go with the broker that's gonna be the cheapest.
The concept here is you're going to be getting into the same thing. So like Lindsay's saying, save yourself the money, because then you can use that to grow your investments. Now, later we'll suggest some mutual funds or index funds that you can look at to invest in, so stay with us, but first we need to get an account to be able to put it into. The first account that we recommend that you open, if you haven't opened one already, is a Roth IRA. There's a lot of reasons to doing this, but for a starter account, it is ideal for almost anybody.
To keep things clear, so far on our investment pipeline, we've created a checking account, we've created a brokerage account, we're gonna move our money from our checking account to our brokerage account, and now we're creating a Roth IRA account within our brokerage account.
Now, when you're setting up your Roth IRA in the process, it's going to ask you how you want to handle your dividends. Make sure to smash the button that says reinvest, just like we want you to smash that like button. Reinvesting your dividends is really important because it will stay within your account, it will go into the same investment, and it will help continue to grow. It will help that compounding effect. Now that you have your Roth IRA account, it's really important to distinguish right here that the Roth IRA is not your investment. It is simply the tax-sheltered account to hold your investments inside.
Let's talk for a second about what a Roth IRA is, because Derek mentioned it's just an account. It's a type of account. It's basically a tax term. A Roth IRA means that you are putting post-tax dollars, meaning money that you've gotten in your bank account, into the account to invest. And any money that you make from your investments within your Roth IRA account is growing tax-free. So when you reach the age of maturity, which is 59 and a half, you will be able to take out all the money and all the gains with no taxes.
So why do you need a Roth IRA? So the idea here is that if you're in a lower tax bracket, later in life you will be in a higher tax bracket, so you pay lower taxes now to avoid paying higher taxes on that amount that you take out. With Roth IRAs, there are limits on how much you can contribute each year. So you need to start as soon as you can because the limit is not very high. It's between $5,000 to $7,000 depending on your age. It does fluctuate each year. I believe right now it's $6,000 if you're under 50 and then $7,000 if you're 50 or older. As this video might be a little dated, I highly recommend that you check with your broker or do a simple Google search to see what that tax year's contribution limits are. Money that you put in as contributions, because it's already been taxed, can be taken out without penalty. Now, any profits that you've earned because it hasn't been taxed, if you take it out before 59 and a half, you're going to have penalty and you're going to be taxed. Usually the penalty is 10%. There are certain qualified distributions that you can do where you can take the profit and the contribution out without penalty or tax. We highly recommend that you look at the IRS website or check with your broker for what those qualified distributions are. They can be from medical to certain life events.
Last thing on the Roth IRA, to avoid a sticky situation with the IRS, you have to know that in order to contribute to a Roth IRA, you have to use taxed income, meaning money that you get from a job. So if you bundle together all of your Christmas and birthday money, you're not going to be able to invest this into a Roth IRA because that money is not considered taxable income.
Well, at this point, you might be thinking, well, Derek and Lindsay, that's all I have. So you're telling me that I can't invest right now? If you don't have taxable income that's qualified for a contribution, the Roth IRA may not be for you yet. But you can still open up a regular account that's not tax sheltered, but you can take the same investments that would go into the Roth IRA and put them into that regular account.
You just won't have the tax benefits that are associated with the Roth IRA, so you'll be taxed on whatever gains you get every year.
Now that you have your account set up, that moves us in the pipeline to step number 3. Choose your investment.
This is when we're going to start talking about the nitty-gritty of what are you going to buy? What are you going to put your money into to grow? Now we're going to start using some terms like stocks, mutual funds, ETFs, bonds. Don't let that scare you because we're going to walk you through it and explain it. We're going to start with the most risky and go down to the safest option. So the most risky is stocks. So when you put your money in a stock, it means you go to that specific company and you say, hey, Apple or Amazon, I really think that you're going to grow, or I like your company. So you put all of your money into that one company saying, I hope you grow.
Think of it as buying a tree. This will make more sense in our next phase, but think of it buying a tree. If that tree doesn't grow or it gets diseased and dies, your investment is that tree and it may not continue to grow, so you have more risk with it.
Let's move on to the medium risk, which are your mutual funds and your ETFs.
So I'm going to carry on with the tree analogy. Remember with the stock, it's like buying one tree and you hope it grows and that it doesn't die. Well, buying a mutual fund or an index fund is like purchasing the forest. You can get hundreds or even thousands of individual stocks, and if one of them gets diseased or dies or falls down, your risk is mitigated across hundreds or thousands of individual stocks, So it's a basket of investments. What's nice is you only have to put it into this one spot and it does that for you. So it lowers your risks, you're still in stocks, you're just not picking individual stocks. With most mutual funds, there's going to be a minimum to enter. Now with Vanguard, their minimums are usually $1,000 or $3,000. Some of them can range up to $10,000. But you might be thinking, well, what if I don't have $1,000 or $3,000 to be able to get into it, but that is the investment I want to get into? At least with Vanguard, a lot of their mutual funds also have an ETF equivalent. That's called an exchange traded fund. What's nice about these are they are the same build as a mutual fund, meaning they have the same investments, but they trade like stocks. So the difference is you don't have to have a minimum investment to get in, you just have to have enough to purchase at least one share, just like a stock. Now you might be asking yourself, well, Derek, if I could get into both, say I have the $1,000 or $3,000 to meet the minimum, but I'm curious about the ETF, well, Derek, which one would you choose? I personally would go with the ETF version, and I'll tell you a few reasons why later on in the video.
Bonds are going to be your safest investment. Bonds are just you giving money to a government or corporation and they promise to pay you back with interest. But it's very low risk, so it's very low reward. The interest rate is not very high.
Part of making the investment is to look at the expense ratio of the mutual fund. We recommend that the expense ratio be below 0.10. Because like we've talked about with the fees, you want to make sure that if you're, as our example, getting that 8% return, that you are lowering the cost of that investment.
If you plan on keeping your investments for more than 15 years, we suggest that you go into mutual funds or index funds that are 95% stocks and 5% bonds, because you're younger, you have more time for the market to grow, you can accept a little bit more risk, and as the historical trends show, the market will trend upward.
Now, if you're a little bit older and you're like, well, I can't take on that much risk, there's a lot of resources. We'll put links down below that can help you. You're right, you should be a little bit more conservative, but depending on your age, don't be overly conservative. At this point, you've done all the things that we've talked about and you're ready and you're thinking, okay, Derek and Lindsay, I'm ready. What is the investment? And that's what we're going to talk about next. But understand that this is our opinion and these are good starter funds, and we're not saying that you should invest into these. We are saying you should look at these, compare other things against them, and make sure that they fit your goal.
To really bring this into perspective, if I told you, hey, I bought my entertainment center from IKEA and I really, really love it, you're gonna be like, wow, that seems like a nice entertainment center. And I'm gonna say, thank you. And, but are you gonna go and buy that exact entertainment center because I told you to? Maybe, but we recommend that you shop around and you compare prices and you decide if it fits your style, and that's how we feel when it comes to mutual funds and purchasing investments. Most of you are going to want to invest in more stocks than bonds. We're going to show you the total stock market index and you can compare other mutual funds against this one.
Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, the ticker for this one is VTSAX. Incorporating some of the things that we had talked about, the expense ratio is 0.04%, below the 0.1% we had talked about. It does have a minimum investment of $3,000 to get into, but like we mentioned, a lot of Vanguard funds do have an ETF equivalent, and this one does. The risk scale of 1 to 5, this is a 4, 5 being the most risky. To give it a little bit more of why we would invest into this fund, remember our analogy about the forest? This fund is purchasing the forest. It is made up of 3,500 different stocks. The funds under management in this one fund alone are just shy of $1 trillion. Just to give that perspective a little bit, Robinhood currently has about $20 billion under management. Now, this is also important because it's broadly diversified across all industries. So it's looking at all the different industries. The 10 largest holdings in this fund account for 25% of the net asset values. Here you can see those 10. As you saw, the top 10 holdings in that investment are companies that are widely talked about in the media. So our recommendation is don't feel pressured to be able to purchase that individual stock. The other investment that we'd recommend that you research, similar to how we just showed you, is to look at the Vanguard 500 index.
Now, if you're the kind of investor that really wants to just kind of set it and forget it, there are some funds available for you that are just pre-allocated. So one of those funds is called the Target Retirement Fund. Now, when you're young, you can set this at 90-10 of your 90% stocks, 10% bonds, but over time, it will reallocate for you to become more conservative over time with less stocks and more bonds, so that when it comes closer to your retirement, you're in safer investments.
If you're on the Vanguard website, there's a really easy way to find these. In the top right in the search, just type in the year that you think you will be retiring and that fund will come up for you. They have a fund every 5 years.
Just to note, you can also use these funds even if you don't specifically think you want to target to use it for retirement. If you think you want to use the money in 10 or 15 years rather than 30 years, you can still use these funds as well. So all the steps and all the information we just covered are things that you can do on your own to begin investing, and you don't need anybody else to do it with you. Now we're going to shift gears just a little bit because we really want to touch on employer-sponsored accounts like 401ks.
If your employer allows you to contribute to an established employer plan, such as a traditional 401k, Roth 401k, 403b, TSP, thrift savings plan, you should definitely take advantage of that, especially if your employer is going to be offering a match. You should absolutely meet that match. I mean, who doesn't want free money?
Literally free money.
They're going to match, meaning they're going to give you money for you putting money into that investment.
And we think that you should always do this because usually the match is only like 3% of whatever you contribute. So it's really worth it just to get that free money.
It's not super high in most companies, but it is worth taking advantage of.
So all these accounts that are available to you, it's all going to be based off of what your employer makes available to you, because these are the types of accounts that you cannot go and set up on your own like an IRA or a Roth IRA. Your employer has to be the one to set up these accounts.
At this point, you should check with your HR department if you don't know if you qualify or if they have an account. Now, if they offer a Roth version of their retirement account, we recommend that you take advantage of it for the same reasons that we recommend that you set up a Roth IRA. It allows you to be able to make those contributions after you've been taxed for the profits to grow tax-free. Now, if you're older and you want to lower your taxable income, we would recommend you look at the traditional 401k or the pre-tax version. That way, any money you put into it will lower your taxable income for that year. Just like with the IRA, we recommend that you become educated within your investments for your 401k. Don't just blindly choose the investments and let your company manage it. This is your money, it's your investment. Make sure you understand where it's going and what it's part of. Part of what we talked about with the Roth IRA applies here as well with the investments. What are the expense ratios of your 401k? Look those up. If you're paying around 1% of an expense ratio, that's extremely high. If you're paying something above 0.2%, we would consider that high. So at this point, look at the expense ratios. If they are high in all of the options, what we do is we meet the match to get that free money we talked about, and then the difference of money we want invested, we actually put into our Roth IRAs.
When you take money out of these accounts, the same principle is going to apply. If you take money out before you reach the age of 59 and a half, you will have penalties and you will be taxed.
The last thing to consider about your employer plan is this is not a bank. Do not take a loan from it. If your 401k, as an example, allows you to take a loan out of it, do not touch it. Look at other options. This is not a piggy bank, it is your retirement, allow it to grow. So to wrap all of this up, we've talked about a lot of different options and we want you to broaden your mind here. You don't need just one account and you shouldn't think of, I have an account, I'm good, I'm invested. For example, we talked about the Roth IRA, the employer account. You should have both and you should have other accounts. Lindsay and I, for example, I have a rollover IRA from a previous 401k that I moved into an IRA. I have a Roth IRA. We have a joint brokerage account that's not tax sheltered. Lindsay has a Roth IRA. We have a 401k with our current employer. I have an ESOP, which is an employee stock option plan. And we have an HSA that's invested into mutual funds as well with the excess amount that it allows us to. All of these accounts have a purpose. We're not just opening up accounts for no reason. Every single one of these serves a purpose. And so we ask that you become educated, look at the tools available for you to take advantage of your investments, take control of your money, and in 30 years, you will thank yourself.
Let me make a quick note because when Derek's talking about having all these different accounts, now think about the maximums that you're allowed to contribute to each of these accounts, because if you open like several IRAs, you are still maxed out, so you can't hit the maximum in every single IRA. The IRS is gonna see you invested this amount into an IRA, they don't care how many IRAs account you have. You're only allotted one maximum amount to invest.
Right, collectively the limit.
Thank you so much for watching, you guys. We really appreciate it. If there's anything that we missed or any questions that you have extra, please put it in the comments. We do read every single one and they are so helpful to us.
We're ultimately here to help you. We want to share our knowledge with you. If you feel like there's more detail needed, please let us know down below. Also, don't forget to smash that like button and make sure you subscribe.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, damn, I thought you scared me. It's just
Well,
a
it
beetle.
literally blew like right by my ear, like right into it.
403B.
The beetle is back. I didn't get it. Oh, it's over there. I see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it.
Not a big deal. These jokers are saying all types of crazy